What is going on, All Terrain Nation? Whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or these cool EVs, but I guess we're about all to start driving. This is your All Terrain Nation, and I'm your host, David Wood, alongside co-host Mr. Bronco Santa himself, Mr. Overlanding Fun.
Bronco Santa.
El Bronco.
Don't forget the L. It's very important.
I didn't know that we were speaking non-English now, but what is going on, everybody?
Why not?
Oh man, we got a fun one tonight, but it's been a minute, and I apologize. My softball schedule is kicking in, so it's been just kind of like screwing the happy hours up. So, but I literally ran from the fields to be here, so I'm very sweaty. I threw on a new shirt quickly, and there we go. But El Bronco Santa, how you been, buddy? I hadn't seen you in 2 weeks.
Man, I'm doing good. Recovering from our trip to Detroit, and so. Kind of back in the swing of things at home and at work.
Yeah, well, that's a bummer, really.
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
Let's live the dream life.
Right, I'm ready for another one. I didn't have that luxury going to that Jeep invasion thing that you guys did.
Well, that and we can get into that in a little bit because that was something else. That was a crazy mess.
And I heard I saw on Facebook. I saw it on Facebook that you guys were terrorizing the streets of Pigeon Forge.
I was
feeling
no pain there. So what we did was we kept just walking down the thing, doing all the whiskey or moonshine tastes, and it was crazy. Yeah. But speaking of crazy, Tim, we've got a man who's been on the Bronco show before. I want to say twice he's been on there, and then he said, "Hey, F the Bronco, man. Broncos last year." He's like,
I read that on Facebook too.
Yeah,
like,
he like,
I'm done. I'm one and out with the Bronco.
Yeah, but what is up, Matt, aka Mr. Coderman? What is going on, buddy?
Nothing much, man. How's everybody doing?
Well, you know, a lot of people want to pull these imaginary knives out of their back that you've slayed them. I'm only playing, of course, man. We all buy new vehicles all the time, but Matt, I've got to jump in it real quick so we get this out of the way. That's a real fire behind you. It's not like El Bronco Faco up there.
That is indeed a real fire, and no, my house is not on fire. I'm outside on the.
You'd be awful calm if your house was on fire. Man. This would be a little, it's a little calm.
I'm pretty chill generally, so
that might be if you're this chill. If your house was on fire, we might need to talk. But what is going on, dude? It's been a minute.
It has certainly. Lots of change. Sold the Bronco. It was kind of funny because I sold it, and then I was like, "What the hell am I going to drive?" And I got the notice that my Lightning had been built, but then I got no more notices, nothing about shipments, delivery dates. It was supposed to be in July, but that never happens. Right. And the day after the company came and picked up the Bronco, I ended up getting a notice from Ford saying your Lightning's been delivered. And not 20, 30 minutes later, I get a call from my dealer, and he's like, "Hey, dude, your F-150 came in." And I was like, "All right, well, I didn't really plan this, but I guess that's what I'm going to be driving."
Right. Well, that seemed to work out, I guess.
It did. It just kind of like timing and everything. It worked out well. And
that's
then
unusual for Ford.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a month late by its original estimate. So,
that's actually pretty good. That's nothing to complain about there.
No, I mean, none. I'm not going to complain at all. It was basically 13 months from ordering. I did the reservation day of. CEO walked on the stage, and honestly, when I heard Lightning, I had hopes that it was going to be the old school like F-150 Lightning. I got really excited, and then I was like, "Shit, I need to try EV at some point." So, I mean, I like Ford anyway, so why not just go for it?
Yeah, man, and go for it. You did. I know privately we had been messaging back and forth a long time ago when you were putting your reservation in and stuff, and I have to say you went with the best color option you could. You went with the Rapid Red, so Team Rapid Red there. What do you think of that color so far?
I absolutely love it. That's actually the color I wanted on the Bronco when I ordered it. And at the time I had another red car, and I just got this weird thing that I'm like, they need to be different. And I love Velocity Blue. It's just, I personally, I mean, my whole channel's theme is red. My favorite color is red even before YouTube. So red just made sense.
Nice, man. Well, you've definitely, I think you've upgraded. Kind of what are a couple plus and minuses to in the Bronco part of this? But what are some kind of the plus and minuses that you had with Bronco?
So the biggest thing was the space. I knew going in, I got the 2-door, and it was going to be small. I didn't quite really comprehend how small, even the fact that the seats don't fold flat. So you lose some space there. I know there's obviously been some advancements. You've actually covered it as well, that you can make it so you can, make it flat, completely flat. But, for me, we have 5 kids. We had 2 kids that are starting daycare in kindergarten. And the biggest thing about that was drop off and pick up. You have to kind of help them get out. And if you have a 4-door, they'll actually do it for you. So you don't have to stop and get out and get screamed at by parents. And then the biggest thing was I had friends that wanted to do off-roading, but it never really came to fruition. So I kind of became a mall crawler to some extent, and it was never the intention. So I found a company that they're actually going to put it into their fleet of off-roading vehicles. And I was like, great, that's what it was built for. That's what that's what should be done. So they came and picked it up, and it's, I believe, now in Texas.
Really? So you sold it, used Carvana or somebody, or?
I used Auto Trader. And after a slew of spam and people lowballing me even way below what I thought it could ever go for, this one company reached out to me and, was like, just basically hop on FaceTime, let us know it's real. We're going to ask you to show specific sections of it so that we know there's no damage or anything like that. I was super upfront that it had the graphics from the channel. I could remove it or they could. It was over the coding, so simple enough. Showed them the odometer, started it up, drove it kind of forward a little bit just so they knew the transmission engaged, and they were good to go. They wired me the money, and
it was pretty seamless. So I've reached out with my Gladiator to a few of those companies, and they've sort of lowballed me on it a little bit, but pretty seamless for you.
It was. They gave me just under what I was asking. They were super straightforward in the whole process. Like I said, they told me when they were going to wire the money. They gave me a notice that it had been wired, and they followed up with me without me even asking. And I just all had a note, of course, and I just got the title, so I'll be sending that off to them. Probably tomorrow because it just came in. Super seamless. I don't know. So I work through a broker. I don't know who the final destination is. But as far as I'm concerned, who I worked with, I would definitely work with them again.
Nice, man. Because that's one thing that might be a show down the road, because that seems to be getting more and more popular way to sell a vehicle. And I know we have a big outlet here in Nashville for that, where they buy all these cars and they have just 60, 70 mechanics in the shop. They go through them quickly. If they see something, they pull it out and it goes right back to auction. They will buy up massive amounts of vehicles at auction only to just get them in their possession to look at them, and then they sell them off. And at some point you go, well, I can kind of see why maybe that might be hurting some of these companies, but in your case, it seemed to work out well. So, do you miss the Bronco though a little bit?
It's hard to say. I only put 5,000 miles on it, so I didn't get to really experience it as much as I thought I would. I'm not really. I still love it. I still think that what Ford did is great. I hope that they can get the constraints of, obviously it's not all in them, but I hope they can get them up, and people can get their vehicles. Off-roading it for the off-rodeo was a once in a lifetime event. I really did enjoy it. So I think the whole experience is really fun. It didn't really fit me anymore, and I'm kind of not one to sit there and decide maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't, whatever. Let's just have someone else have fun with it.
Yeah, and and life's too short to sit there and just be with a vehicle that maybe doesn't fit the balance of the family life thing, and I totally get that. But so what brought you to, we'll slowly get into this, what brought you into Lightning? What was I know you said a minute ago you thought, well, maybe it'll be the the old school Lightning. Of course, Ford had been teasing for a long time. We'd seen that where they were pulling the trains and all that stuff with their testers. What was it about this? Did you just need a truck, or what was it?
Yeah, so I've needed a truck for a while. That was actually a huge thing for me, as I've been looking at trucks. In fact, I almost sold the Bronco in the spring. I got the ability to get a Gen 3 Raptor allocation, and I was super excited about it. But then I found out that I was getting a customer's bailout, and it was antimatter blue. And no disrespect to anybody that has antimatter blue, I just can't get on board with a color that is 90% black, no matter what light it is.
Right.
It just doesn't work for me. And
Right.
I was kind of bummed because like I got super excited about the Raptor, but then I started talking to friends and stuff, and they're like, you know, you can't really tow with that. Like, you can't do
Right.
a whole lot with it. It's a Baja truck. Like, it's not, you know, it has a really stiff suspension for what it is, but like you're not gonna have a great time with it. It's also like $90,000. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's
you
a
know,
big chunk of money.
yeah, it was one of those
I'm always
things I was like, I
amazed.
could have,
Go
yeah,
ahead, Matt.
like I have a
Go
truck.
ahead.
No, I could have a truck and then I could have like a toy car for the same difference. So the
Mhm.
Lightning, it was funny because it really wasn't where I was headed, right? So I was thinking of just getting like an F-150 or even like an older, you know, say like a 2016, 2018, that gen. Um, I basically just kind of had it out that it would come in at some point and then I would make a decision. And then just the more I started thinking about it, I was like, hey, you know what? It'd be kind of cool. I do need a vehicle to bring, supplies to the rental properties and whatever. And I was like, it'd be useful, but I don't have to go super far, as far as, traveling and stuff. So the range won't be a big deal to me.
Hmm.
I then proceeded to buy the truck and then immediately drive to Pennsylvania.
Saw the
So
video.
thank
Saw
you.
the
So
video. Yeah.
I owned it less than 2 days and I put 700 miles on it.
So first off, because I do want to talk about the towing, but so your first impressions, you see this thing and they look like an F-150. Now slightly different, but they really do look like an F-150. Everything about it. I mean, what was your first impressions when you actually saw it in person?
So my first impression was twofold. One, it is an F-150. It is, if you buy a 2022 F-150 and you line them up next to each other, there's very small differences
Mhm.
visually. Um, Taillights is one of them. For some reason on the Lightning, they stick out. And the only thing that's weird about that is when you're driving at night, you can see yourself apply your brake lights.
Really?
And that's really freaking strange because you think there's like a cop or something behind you. And when I was driving down to Pennsylvania, it's like, 11:30 at night. I'm kind of getting a little tired and I'm applying the brakes and I look behind me and I'm like, I'm the only one on this road. Where is this light coming from? And it
Mhm.
took me a second. I'm like, okay, that's the brake lights. But wait, why can I see those? Because they kind of like
Right.
wrap around the bed and they
Right.
kind of they protrude a little bit. It's kind of weird.
Right.
Um, yeah, I
Interior
mean the
wise,
big
everything.
interior wise, so I got the cloth interior because it's the XLT. So I didn't go with the Lariat or anything like that. So it's not leather. I think it's comparable. I have not personally been in a 2022 F-150, so I can't say 100%, material wise.
Yeah.
But I would say I think the XLT, even in the standard F-150, comes with the cloth, and then you might be able to upgrade
Yeah.
as a possibility. The biggest thing for me was and it was kind of funny, but when I ordered it, I thought I was getting the bigger screen. So I don't know if you've seen like interior photos. It's like this massive screen. It's kind
Mhm.
of just like a 15-inch iPad stuck to the stuck on there. And I was kind of annoyed because I was like, I don't need all that real estate. And I personally don't like digital controls for like radio and climate controls.
Yep.
So I'm very tactile. Like I can make changes to those things without having to look. And a touchscreen, you can't do that. So I was actually pleasantly surprised when I spec'd it out. It was like the XLT comes with, I think it's like a 12-inch screen or something, but it's a bigger screen than the Bronco had for me, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Like I don't need any more than that. The climate controls and the radio are below that. So you can make all your changes that you need and your buttons are there.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the buttons and the knobs and everything are basically the same as the Bronco.
Yes. When I
Okay,
said
yeah,
that's funny. When I took it for my test drive after it came in, the climate control and the radio, like the cluster for all like the volume and channel, is the Bronco.
yeah. I think they've been doing that with some minor differences in the actual push buttons and maybe where they are in relationship to each other. But the main paddle switch for the fan, the knobs for
Hmm.
the temperature, and all that, those are all in the same spot. One, I think maybe the trucks might be a little wider, but
Well, they
so
had to do that. They had to do that though for like older customers that may be interested in this. You can't just like completely freak. You can't go to Cybertruck on them. Like it would just
No.
ruin this
Yeah.
vehicle.
Oh yeah, and I agree. So in the Tesla, there's none of that. I mean, it's all touchscreen, and and I think to your point, Dave, I don't think a lot of older people are jumping into a Tesla right off the bat, but can we bring in an older crowd? I think that's probably part of the reason why Ford chose to stay with the F-150 platform for this, is to ease customers in. They're already buying F-150s, so there's not much of a leap for them as far as the truck itself. It's just the power plant. That's a little bit different.
So this thing, the dealership that you have, how is it a big dealership? I mean, what are they like?
So the dealership that I go through, I mean, I can tell you what it is. It's McGovern Ford, out of Boston, and that dealership itself is kind of small. It's a smaller dealership. The dealer group, McGovern, is pretty large in the area. And one of the things that's really great about them is, at least in my experience so far, they don't have any shenanigans, right? So if a vehicle comes off of the truck, it gets slapped with ADM, automatic dealer markup. If it's an order, you buy it for what you bought it for.
Nice.
And it's as simple as that. And it was funny because when they asked me about the Bronco, and they're like, wait, like, why can't we have it? I was like, well, I already sold it.
Yeah.
And they're like, did you get more money for it? And I'm like, I don't want to tell you.
I'm not giving you negotiating power. Yeah.
But no, he was like, no, seriously, I just want to know, like, are they selling well or whatever? And I was like, yeah, they are, And I was like, but by the way, I'm still getting this for MSRP, right? Like, I don't want to have this conversation. But no, he's a funny guy, and my sales guy, and yeah, I got it for MSRP. The only fee that I paid was $495 dog fee.
Which I hate those, man. But
I do too. It's like 4 minutes of work to perform documents. It's like
right,
and it's all computer based now. So
yeah, it's literally
they don't even use the I don't know exactly kind of what a printer it is, but basically where it's fed on the sides, and it's like a dot matrix printer, and it sounds horrible. Yep. They don't even use that anymore.
Yeah, no, it's funny. They just type your name in the VIN, and it just does everything else.
Yep. And in my case, I brought financing because I have a bank that I work with, so I didn't even have to go to the financing department. Like, I was in and out of there. So I went and checked it out because I always make sure that it was delivered properly, like doesn't have any issues or whatever. Right. I checked the price to make sure that I'm not going to have any issues with that. And then it's okay, fine, prep it, and I'll come back in 2 days. And it came back in 2 days. I was in and out of there in like about as much time as it takes for them to register with the state my plate. Yeah, and off I was.
So you were able to transfer your plate then? Is that
no? So that was actually a funny, and I'm sure people will run into this at some point.
Because you had a custom Coderman license plate.
I do, and I mean, it's technically now dormant, but so I wanted to have that, and they're like, well, it's an EV, so it needs an EV plate. I'm like, I don't think it does, but I didn't know where to look because our DMV website is horrible. Like, you can't find information. Right. And I was like, it's after hours. I'm not gonna be able to call anybody. So fine, like, we'll do that when I come back. Yeah. So I talked to my insurance agent, and they're like, yeah, you need an EV plate because then you don't get the tax credit. I was like, I've seen Teslas with vanity plates. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine that they're leaving tax credits on the table here. So I did some digging, and right now it just has EV plates. But I did some digging, and yeah, I can have vanity plates. So I am going to transfer over. Nice. My custom plate.
I didn't realize there was an EV plate.
I mean, I know that a Massachusetts thing then.
Yeah, I know it's a state probably.
Yeah.
State.
It's by state. There's some states that are trying to do it. It's basically like it's a little picture of a car with like a plug wrapped around it. It has EV as a prefix, and then whatever numbers your plate is. Originally, way back in like the Chevy Volt days, it was to alert first responders that it was an electric vehicle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They need to extract you a certain way because there's certain places you can cut an electric vehicle and not die.
Well, that's important.
It's very important.
Don't grab yourself; you'll be all right.
Right.
Yeah, don't grab that orange wire.
Yeah.
Do not. Exactly. It's kind of one of those things. I think that was the original intent. Now it's more of like hey, look, I have an EV. It's on an F-150. I think that's kind of neat because most of them look like just a gas-powered F-150. It's a Tesla. I think everybody knows that it has, it's an EV.
Yeah. I love Peugeot's comment here. Should have a plate that says 7.5K cred.
That's what that little EV symbol on the plate means.
Yeah. What a custom plate idea, though.
Yeah.
So you look at the vehicle. It obviously, it's acceptable. I know talking privately, you were like, hey, I want to make sure we get MSRP. Like I'm not going to screw around with that. So you're kind of excited by that. You take it for a drive. What was your EV experience before this one?
A Porsche Taycan.
Oh, well, man, set the bar high there, right?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that to myself. I had always wanted to drive a Tesla. I have friends that have them. You might get some wind. Hold on, it just got really windy here. Yeah, I never had the opportunity to drive one, and I think much of it. So I was at a Porsche event, and to the unveil actually of the Porsche Taycan 4S, and I drove that. I drove that like crazy. The dealer was like, "Yeah, do whatever you want. We don't care. Just don't get arrested." And then I was like, "Okay, cool. Like maybe I could have an EV in my life, especially if it's a Porsche.
Seems
like this
an
would work,
invitation.
right?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. But he said just don't get arrested and don't crash. Those are his two rules, because then he has paperwork to do. But it was a ton of fun. My biggest thing, there was no sound. Well, actually, that's a lie. There was Jetson noises.
Yeah, the Porsche has that weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it
How'd that
legit
go
sounds
down,
like the Jetsons car.
It went.
Yep.
Really? What,
So I was like,
sure. What does it sound like again?
Yeah, can we get a replay?
Yeah, we're not recording this, Tim.
I'm flipping that.
But yeah, you set the bar high. I remember us riding around in Vegas in the model, what was it, 3s? I think Model 3s.
Oh, Model S. Oh, no, the Model Y.
Oh, well, those
So
were
the
that's right.
mini SUV, yeah.
Yeah. And
you're
going
right.
through the
I've been in a
tunnel.
Tesla.
You what?
I have been in a Tesla.
Yeah. No, I remember then because we were walking ourselves to death in Vegas, and then it's like, well, why don't you take the tunnel? It's like, what do you mean take the tunnel? Yeah, go across the mile or whatever it is under the convention center. But yeah, no. So you take the vehicle out. I mean, you've got to give it the beans right away, right? I mean, that's I mean, on the test drive, like this thing's not leaving until I know that it's going to sit me back in my seat. So what was that like?
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, I might be buying this, so I don't want to break it, but at the same time, I need to know if I'm gonna like it. And I like fast cars, so it's kind of like it needs to. If it doesn't make sound, it better at least be fast.
Yeah.
It fit that requirement. Yeah. EV's kind of weird. It's like it could be a bus, and somehow it just has instant torque, right? It's just the way the motors and structure works. But the weirdest thing for me is that you should never feel a truck's front end lift.
Yes.
And on this, it does. So if you could definitely let it get away from you because your front wheels, like they don't come off the ground, of course, but you're definitely putting a lot of your weight to the back and the front's coming up. So if you try to do some sort of a maneuver in that, you could certainly lose control. But it was one of those things, even my friend was like, the fastness is going to wear off, right? Like you're not going to go, 0 to 100 between lights. So like, at what point is it going to be like, this is a novelty, right? Like I can go faster, I can't. So that's where it came into like, is it quiet? How's the sound system? Which sounds stupid, but I'm sorry. The Bronco sound system was horrible and I needed something better.
Yeah, no, if they can't get this, because this is sort of their halo vehicle right now. If they can't get that thing sounding in any other Ford I've ever been in, but Bronco is just shit, man. I don't know if it's a mixture.
Yes, I don't know what problem you're having. Mine sounds great.
You have the B&O, and I haven't activated because I can actually activate that.
And I know how to use an EQ, so it sounds great.
Okay, so the problem with the Black Diamond is I didn't have B&O and I didn't have an EQ. Well, I had an EQ. Do you want loud or less loud?
Yeah,
that was the extent. So,
and that's been my big criticism, even with or without the B&O. That's been my big criticism of Ford. It's software defined. Put a multi-band EQ in there. A 3-band EQ does not cut it. You can make it sound good if you can dial it in.
Well,
you can't do that.
Everybody's an audio engineer like you are, Tim. So
damn straight.
So sound system made the checklist. What do they call their throw you back in the seat mode? I don't even. Does it have a special name?
I don't honestly don't
launch mode.
One.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But so you've never launched an EV, then, man? The launch of an EV is. I can't describe it. I was in the little Kia, little 4-seater Kia, and like to feel the G's that it puts on your head real quick. Like there's nothing like the experience in that, like that instant 0 to
yeah.
Hey Dave, did you turn on the G meter in the Kia?
No, I didn't mess with any of that stuff.
Yeah, they've got a G meter in there.
Yeah,
mine did. Yeah, but it was gas, and I actually I could spool up the turbos and then launch.
Yeah,
kind of like it's not a trans brake or any way, shape, or form, but same concept of being able to spool those turbos up and have that instant power.
Yeah. So has launch control? Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Matt.
All right. No, I was just gonna say, I launched the Taycan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of like, I got it.
Yeah,
Plus,
which is faster. Yeah.
If you've been on Space Mountain, I mean, that's basically an EV.
Mm-hmm. But the thing I noticed with EVs though, versus, I mean, I've been in some fast cars, but it was strange to me that I'm in $100,000 Lexus, which would put you back in your seat, 500 some horsepower Lexus. And then I get in this mid 30s, whatever it was, $40,000 Kia, and to feel like your brain hit the back of your head sort of, and it take that split second for your reality to come back, like your brain to catch up with what is happening is awesome, man. So I imagine in a pickup truck, that's gotta be nuts.
It is. And like, I have a short that it was like a 40 to 60 pull. It was nothing to write home about, but it has more torque than my GT4 had, which just kind of blows my mind. I mean, granted, the GT4 is not really meant for be a torque monster, but it was just like, it kind of set me back that I'm like, between not knowing when it's going to go, right? Because there's no sound. It's just, it's an artificial sound at best. So you hear no engine revving, you have no turbos, you have nothing. It just goes and immediately. And it's awesome for merging, I'll tell you that much. Like you have those lanes where it's like 3 lanes and then it's a stoplight, and then like this lane has to come into this lane. I always win.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know talking to you before though, you needed a truck for your family business and stuff. And have you done truck things with it yet?
Well, I mean, aside towing, I have. We also so my wife's Brazilian, and we have a Brazilian tradition, or she has a Brazilian tradition where we make this thing called pamoya, where you actually get corn from actually a farm, and you essentially grind it down, and using the corn husks as like a bait, as like kind of like a wrapper, you make this corn dish. So we took the Lightning up to the farm and put the corn satchels in the back, and it's funny because it got dirtier than the Bronco ever did, which
well, did you get bed liner with this one?
So I did not, and I'm gonna have to get something, because not that it's scratched or anything. It's just I know it's going to be.
Yeah, it trips me out that that's not standard in any truck anymore. Like that, at this point, it's like it's a truck. I know the idea of old trucks was it's a truck, you scratch it up, beat it up, whatever. It just does truck things. But now it's like we have the technology, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you're paying. And that's specifically about the Lightning, but upwards of $90,000 for some of these pickup trucks. You want that back end to look nice.
Yeah,
you do. And
maybe don't need to slide around.
Yeah, and maybe they should just come standard with like a Rhino lining type. Type.
It was an option for spray and bed liner, or you could also get like the plastic variants that are kind of form fit or whatever. But my experience with those, even outside of the pandemic and everything in between, is that those are the things that hold up a build, because it has to go through yet another process. If they don't have the materials on hand, the whole entire thing. So it's similar to with the Bronco. I removed the towing package, and the roof rack I could never have, but I removed the towing package because I was like, I want to remove as many possible constraints. So it's the same thing. And aside from resale value, I can get a spray and bed liner, or I can get a drop in.
Yeah.
And I will be, because like I can't throw a single tool or anything back there. I'd have to like lightly place it, which is just not realistic.
So what size tires you got on this thing?
That's a great question. From the factory, I want to say they're 35, but I'm not positive.
No, it would be like a 32 or so if I remember right. They're not big tires on these things.
Yeah.
It looks pretty big, but yeah, I don't know offhand. You're gonna make me go look it up.
You ready to put some KO2s on there?
What?
Yeah, let's get some mud terrain tires on this thing.
Put some mud terrain on there.
Well, that's the bummer about EV, man. Tire selection has to be pretty, because they're so heavy. I would think like tire selection would be sort of limited.
Well, there's probably two things at play. If you mess with the tires or the wheels, you're gonna mess with the range.
Mm-hmm.
You know, may or may not be a big deal. I know a lot of people that just throw aftermarket wheels on a Tesla or, you know, any other EV. So it's kind of like you kind of have to weigh, are you going for a specific use case? Are you going for style? You know, what are you after? Are you after ultimate range or a mixture of, you know, all of the above, right? So it's kind of like if you have a gas truck or gas car, you can do things that cause it to be less performant. But is that a benefit to you or a disadvantage? So me personally, I'm just going to keep it the way that it is. I've gone through the whole world of changing out intercoolers and braking systems and wheels and tires and exhaust and everything in between. And the thing for this that's interesting for me is I can't mod it. Like, aside from maybe lights, you can't do a damn thing to it.
Right. Yeah. What I mean, I guess, you know, it is what it is, but yeah, you know, you were definitely right. Wait, I don't know. TC Customs lifted theirs.
Yep, they did.
So it
It's
does,
actually pretty
I think,
badass,
has the
too.
same basic suspension as the standard F-150. But you could soup up your battery pack. You could do some software mods to the code, you know, to make that a little better. I mean, there's mods you can do. I just think it's not going to be traditional or what people are used to doing.
Right. So I
And
pulled
I
up.
think yeah, go ahead.
So I pulled up a quick discount tire search on this thing, and it's either a 20 or an 18, and it's a 275 60 20 or a 275 65 18s. And I was curious, like, what are, I mean, it doesn't even want to give me much options here, really, but I'm curious what load range tire that you have to run on these things.
That's not
Sorry
something
to
I can
derail
answer.
us like that, but
No, I'd be curious. I mean, honestly, there's also a couple questions in here, so I don't know if we want to, you know, kind of
go
answer
dig right in.
questions as we're going.
Well, if it's him from Empress, I'd just skip it.
Ah,
He's been drinking again. I mean, you can tell.
he's an OG in my book. I'll answer him.
That's right.
Old goat drunk. I don't know. I mean, you can look how he's misspelling things and tell where he's at.
So this is a great question: is what is the estimated mileage before a battery replacement? And I think that's an important distinction with EV, is that when you drive, it's like an iPhone. When you drive it off the lot, that is as long as that battery is going to charge in its life.
Yep.
Every time that it charges, it gets slightly less. Now it's minuscule, you know, it's not like every charge you're going to lose 10% or some dumb stuff, but over time you will definitely lose, capacity. In terms of how long, how much mileage before it starts to dwindle, or you need to replace the battery, Ford hasn't said. You know, it hasn't been out long enough for anybody to actually have to do that. I think with, what was it, the Prius, or I don't remember, it was one of the other EVs. I think it was like 10 years. They seem to think that it needs to be replaced, which is funny because usually there's a 10-year warranty. So that's really kind of them to give you a warranty right up until the point where you have to replace the battery.
Yeah.
But in my case, two things are at play. One, I won't have the truck that long. I just don't keep vehicles that long. And two, you know, no one has any idea how long it's going to last. It could do really well, or, you know, it could suck. I don't know. We'll find out. You know, one thing I do like is they put forth, a huge effort to build as much of this in Michigan as they could.
Right.
And one of those is the battery. So,
right. Well, and they will move that. I know Tennessee's, they're going to get their blue oval thing where they're going to build all their batteries and stuff. But what is your initial kind of economy been with this? And that's because it's a weird thing. Like, you know, we all know kind of MPGs. We know, you know, you get in the 20s, 30s, you're doing good. What has it been like with this thing? How have you been charging it since you've got it? I assume when you picked it up, it had a full charge.
yes, so they did charge.
I
They
wonder,
were very nice.
I'm even curious, like, how do they do their PDI inspections on these? What do you look at? I guess make sure the wheels are tight.
So believe it or not, because I didn't get to keep it, but I did see in the center console, there is a checklist. And I'm guessing it comes from Ford. It could potentially come from the shipper too. I'm not really positive, but so there is stuff that they do. But yeah, as far as like, you know, check the transmission fluid or check the this or check the that. I mean, honestly, I mean, they probably plug it into a computer and it says, I'm good to go. I can't imagine they have to do much.
Yeah, activate launch control.
Right. You know, so I think that,
Turn off
you know,
the
when I
B&O
picked it
system.
up, it was 100, was it?
As it turn off the B&O sound system.
Watch out, Ford's going to have monthly upgrades like BMW does.
Oh, please no.
You'll have to pay for the better sound system per month.
Yeah.
But no, I picked it up. It had a full charge. Outside of that, you know, so I got it home. I think I put like maybe 50 miles on it or something like that. I then had the trip to Pennsylvania the next day, which again was not planned. I found a motorcycle that I've wanted for a really long time. I found a guy that was really responsive and gave me all the good feelings that I'm going to drive 300 miles each way and I'm actually going to get it.
Yep.
So it just kind of worked out that I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to come down. I rented a trailer down there. But anyways, you know, the way down, I charged at a couple different places. One was at a mall and one was at a Walmart. And they're between 50 kilowatt hours and 150 kilowatt hours of charge. And they kind of range. You'll find ones that are 350. In the case of the Lightning standard range battery, it can only do up to, I think it's 100 and I want to say it's 125 or 130 kilowatt hours max. So, you know, these chargers are smart that they will only put out what the vehicle can handle. Right. So you can hook up to a 350, but you're only going to get whatever your max is.
I assume there's a computer system that talks to the vehicle and they kind of solve that issue.
Yeah. So one thing that's really cool and also scary, because I'm kind of into security with my job and whatnot, is Ford has my credit card in the Ford Pass app. I put it in there. So when I plug my charger from an Electrify America charger or plug their charger rather into the truck, it initializes, knows how much it has to charge, and charges my credit card. I don't have to do anything.
Wow.
Which is convenient, although there's the side of me that's the security conscious side that's like, this is easily hackable. So, you know, be careful kind of thing. One thing that's kind of cool is I get 250 kilowatt hours for free with Electrify America and a Ford partnership. I blew through that on the way home, so I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
But as far as like the economy, I mean, it, you know, so we can look at it two different ways. So when I charged at the Electrify America, they charge by the minute. And I wish I knew what the kilowatt hour was offhand, but like the per cost, but it basically came out to, I was at like 40% battery and I wanted to get it to 80%. And I'll explain why that is in just a second. But at the 80%, I think I spent like $12. So from like 40 to 80%, it was like $12. And that took about 20 to 30 minutes.
And roughly how many miles is that?
So on the standard range, which is what I have, it's good for 220 miles. So in that case, it probably brought me up to like maybe about 180. And what's interesting about EVs, not limited to the Lightning, is at 80%, the battery is obviously getting closer to full. And just like your phone, it slows down its charge rate. So if you're doing 90 kilowatt hours up to 80%, it will cut all the way down to 40 or even 30 sometimes. So if you're on the road and you're trying to fill up and continue on, it's actually better to get to like 80, 85% and then hop in the truck, go wherever you're going to go. And if you need to charge again, it's going to be faster to stop and charge again once you're out of that 80 range versus sitting there and let it run through and try to get to 100% because it could take twice as long.
Battery protection at some point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So basically the way that the way that it charges super fast, which like your phone does that too. And then it gets to a threshold where it's dangerous, really is what it comes down to. And they start to throttle it. Or if for some reason it was hot, like if you were in Texas, if the battery gets too hot, it'll also throttle it.
Right. So you said it was a 300-mile trip each way, so you at minimum had to charge one time.
So I had to charge one time. So basically, I had to charge. So I live in Boston. I had to go to Pennsylvania. I charged in Connecticut, and that was just a top off because I was going to the hotel, and I didn't know where the hell I was going to find a charger around the hotel. I then picked up the trailer, picked up the bike. hit a supercharger. Well, not technically a supercharger, but a fast charger. And then I didn't have to fill again until I think it was New Jersey. So basically 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Is some of that
but
just
none of
due to
them are full charge.
paranoia? Is some of that though paranoia?
Yes. So I picked the worst time to go down because my wife and I had tickets to a concert that night. And this is the first time I had an EV in my life, and I didn't know how long it takes to charge. I didn't know, not even just how long it takes to charge, but like you'll get there and all the chargers will be full. So what the heck do you do
Yeah.
now? So I was rushing like hell to try to get home. So I was like, if I get stuck in traffic, like I'm not gonna make it. So I just did like a kind of like a splash and go, like a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
Just give me a couple gallons to keep going.
So
And I ended up coming in with 16 miles left on the truck, which was damn unnerving.
so I guess to kind of maybe put the cost of driving the EV into perspective, you did roughly a 600-mile round trip. How much do you think it cost you in energy costs to make that 600-mile round trip? We just did. So I drove about 600 miles ish to Detroit and back. So I mean that was $150 or so. I think we're about $3.50 a gallon right now for gas here in the Midwest. So
yep. So let me I can actually tell you because it'll tell me how much I paid. So just 1 second if I can.
Does it do that through the Ford Pass app where you kind of keep up with your receipts?
Not for cost. It does tell you when it does give you like charging statistics. It's more when you started and stopped, and then how much it added. However, I use two apps to go. EV Go was one of them, and the other one was Electrify America. Both of them have apps. So on Friday, I charged. It was $18, and that got me the 42 kilowatts that I mentioned. So that was a little less than half of the battery's range, and that was $18. And then, what was it? Then the same trip, because I was eating dinner, I had it do another 28 minutes, and that was $9. That got me 20 more kilowatts. That got me to the hotel. And then let me just quickly pull up.
So that was about $20-ish going down, right?
Yeah, so
presuming that you had a full charge when you.
I did not have a full charge when I left, which was part of the problem, but it was close. So that was $28 to go down, we'll say roughly. And then it's hard to extrapolate how much it cost when I used Electrify America because I had the freebie. But the one time I did charge, it cost $17, and that got me 38 kilowatts. So Electrify America is more money than EV Go.
When I've heard they're bad because even depending city to city, everything varies with them. They might time of day with them, like there's so many factors.
Time of day, popularity of the charging system in that location. They also have idle fees, which that one I actually kind of like because I had an instance where I was trying to charge before I had to keep going, and I went to look over the vehicle like, hey, how long does this have to go? And it was done, but the car was still parked there. And about 25 minutes later, someone comes out of a restaurant that's across the street and gets in the car and drives away. And I was like, cool. I'm glad you got your lunch.
Right.
I've been sitting here. But I would say, so say probably about $40 to go down, and then only one I have is like $17 for the one Electrify America I used, but I would say was probably like another $40 or $50 to come back would be my guess.
So it's about half of probably what it would normally cost.
Okay. So definitely under 100. I think under $100 then round trip, 600 miles.
Yes. However, that's when you're on the road, right? So when I charge at home, which I just installed the charger, I have a video. I'll be shameless and say I'll plug that. But I did a charge at home, and it comes out to, even with our extremely expensive electricity costs here, we just have really expensive supply and delivery costs per kilowatt. It's $38 from 0 to 98. So basically from a dead battery all the way to a completely full battery, it would be about $35.
Yeah, that seems expensive then.
Well, it's expensive because I have extremely high assuming the expense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so yeah.
However, it's way less than it would be to fill up.
What's your
at least
standard
right
range?
now, 98 kilowatt hours.
No, I'm sorry. Mileage,
220
mileage range.
Oh,
220.
between around 220 is the estimate.
Well, so what happened when you
Roughly
came back?
16 cents a mile.
Yeah. So what was when you came back? You're starting to tow, or I presume you were towing, and how did it do that way?
Yeah, so I was towing a 5x8 U-Haul trailer with a 500-pound, maybe 600-pound because it was wet bike. So it definitely was under the towing limit of well under the towing limit of the truck. I want to say, so I was getting between like 2.1 kilowatt per mile. It went up as high as 3 at some points. But what's interesting is when you have a trailer, regenerative braking kicks in, and I just happened to be in a lot of stop and go traffic on the way home.
Right.
That it kind of kept up with my trip for the most part.
That's nice.
But it definitely depletes, and it goes much faster. And if you have anxiety, don't get an EV, because you'll look at it and you'll be like, you have 150 miles. And then you look down again and you're like, you have 139 miles. Like, I went 6 miles. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you can't estimate how much further can I go before I have to charge.
Yeah, because it's AC,
down.
radio, everything is a variable now to what your actual mileage can be.
I was charging my phone,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm assuming you being a tech guy, you've also gotten into some of the screens there and there as far as seeing where your power consumption is going, whether it's climate or drivetrain or stuff like that, and seeing those breakdowns. I think I heard you talk about that in one of your videos about how it's constantly keeping track of that. And that's the beautiful thing. I mean, it's computer generated, right? So it's constantly resampling, reevaluating. So it's pretty current at that moment, but it as soon as you turn the air conditioning up or do something different, I mean, it's going to recalculate and come up with a completely different number. So you said coming back, you had about 16 miles left. Did you notice anything with the car? No, not the car, but with the truck, as far as self-preservation or things like I watched Mitchell watched a video on the Mach-E where he started really pushing it to the limit, and it started shutting down climate control and things like that, and saying, hey, ding dong, it's time to get off the highway, kind of thing. So, well, probably a little more polite than that, but
two things.
You experience that stuff?
Yeah. Yep. So 2 things happened. So I'll first answer the first question. So when I came home, it was about 15, 16 miles. I think by the time I pulled in my drive, it was like 15 miles. Everything I read on the forum says after 10 miles, it goes into turtle mode, which is it slows down how fast you can go. It does cut down on it basically just goes into power reserve, kind of like your Apple Watch or your phone does.
Mm-hmm.
I did not experience that. I kind of want to experience that, but I want to have somebody that can tell me in case it goes horribly wrong. Maybe a fun video, but so nothing happened to me on that side. However, coming home, I was really trying to push the clock. So I was trying to go 70, 75 miles an hour with a trailer. Right. And I noticed that the battery temperature started to climb. And when it got in for, it's basically like, it's kind of like a thermostat. You see cold, hot, whatever. It is a middle range where it wants to live. And then there's 2 bars that kind of like it floats in between that and you're good. It comes to the right side of that. All of a sudden it cuts my power to 60%. It doesn't matter how hard I mash the pedal. I'm only getting 60% of the power on the truck. I could be going uphill. It doesn't matter. It's only going to give me 60%. And then all of a sudden the battery icon turns bright yellow and starts flashing at you. So yeah, I don't know if it was a mixture of the battery getting low and it obviously maybe had been driving for 6+ hours. It just, not really sure what the factor was, but the truck was telling me that it was unhappy with its conditions. And because it's so digital, it takes over. Like it says, no, you're not going to keep running this the way you are. We're going to warn you. And then I'm sure if I kept pushing it, it technically could have gone into thermal shutdown. Yeah. Because they're not going to let the battery explode. Like they're just not.
Yeah. Do you have is it Blue Cruise?
No, actually, no, I don't. I think that's
Okay.
Lariat and above. So I know 4x4 Truck LEDs just did a trip from, I think, New York to Florida, and he has the Lariat, and he has that. So he was hands-free most of the trip. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that.
Would that be an option that you would want down the road now that you've kind of drove one of these?
Yes, so we can definitely get into how I would spec this if I was going to do it again. There's two things that I missed. Blue Cruise would be nice. You know, I'm not necessarily sold on self-driving cars or self-assisted cars, but I think especially on the highway, it's really nice. The other thing, and this is the fault of Ford, is that the way that they explain towing is that the Lightning has 10,000 pounds of towing. However, that is if you get the extended range battery with the max towing package. The max towing package on the website does not tell you that. It just says you'll get maximum towing ability, but it doesn't tell you what the hell that means. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be towing all the time, so I don't need that. Okay,
Right.
so cut the towing in half. So basically, when I bought it, because I got a standard range, I'm only supposed to get 7,500. But because I didn't get the max towing package, I only get 5,000. And I'm like, my wife's SUV has 5,000 towing capacity.
Yeah.
Like, how are you not going to explain this? And then the other thing is with max towing, you get double the cooling, which in the world of batteries is a very good thing. So again, no literature on their website to explain, hey, by the way, when you get max towing, you get more towing range, which you can kind of extrapolate from the name, but you also get double the cooling on the battery.
Do you think some of that is Ford's relying on their dealers to jump in on to explain to customers a little bit more? I mean, obviously you can't put everything on the website. You would confuse the customer, especially with EV now. It's so option based. Everything is an option. You know, everything affects everything. Maybe they're hoping dealers kind of fill in the void.
I think they do, but the problem is, think about how I bought the Bronco. I think about how I bought the Lightning. I bought it on the website, and I got notified that it got delivered.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no point that I went to a dealership to look at it because they didn't have them. I mean, when I went to go pick up the Lightning, they had a demo unit on site that they can't drive. It's
Really?
it's a loaner. Yeah, it's a loaner from. It's actually really funny. It's a loaner from Ford when Ford executives are in the area to take to events. I was like, "What? You can't drive it?" Like, no, we don't even have the keys for it. I was like, "So it just sits on your lot?" And they're like, "Yeah, it looks pretty."
I know
So,
my dealership called me. They have one in their demo, and they were like, "Well, yeah, but you can only drive it 10 miles." And I was like, "What am I going to do in 10 miles? What am I going to learn from this?" So that's why I haven't done a review on one. They called me up, said, "Hey, come get this, but only go 10 miles." And I'm like, "What am I supposed to do?" Like, yeah, there's no review there for that.
come up to Boston. You can borrow mine for the whole day.
Well, we had talked about that. I hadn't been to Boston yet, so that's always an option. But you're getting your weather's starting to change, so I keep going further south. I don't want to keep going north.
All the caveat is you'll have to bring the Bronco so he can have that to drive around.
Well, of course.
Then he'll go off-roading with somebody else's Bronco.
Yeah, yeah. And then
be fine
suddenly
with
it's
it.
like all the off-roading trips pop
Hey,
in.
sorry about that scratch, but it's a Bronco. It's okay.
Yeah,
Just slap some wrap
I
on
would
there.
never do that. All right, maybe I would, but
no Kelly that.
Like, maybe
I'm
I would.
actually, yeah, no, actually, I don't want her mad at me. I'm not scratching the Bronco. I'm okay with you being mad at me, but not her.
Right.
No, I'm actually giving my friend the keys the end of this week. He has a Polestar, which is kind of like the spin-off from, was it Volvo?
Yeah,
I
Volvo.
probably should learn about this if I'm going to drive it. We're swapping keys. I did it with my Bronco and his Maverick.
Is this the guy
year.
that does the point of view videos?
No, actually, I haven't asked him if he wants to drive it or not. This is a guy that does long form reviews. So he does kind of like the old Motor Trend days when they would have a vehicle for like 6-9 months or whatever and go like to the full ownership experience. He's kind of bringing that back. So he's always switching cars. He's kind of switching cars as well. He won't be your competition, I can assure you.
Well, clearly I'm not much competition to many people. So you know, so TFL, TFL did they showed and I like those guys and I'm friendly with those guys, but the video they did on the showing towing 6,500 pounds or what it was, the trailer, I was like, that's never, like, we know that this thing's gonna fail real quickly. They ended up 90 miles towing is what they got before they had to charge. Where do you think the sweet spot might be? Is it that 1,000 pounds, of towing?
I mean, in my personal experience with the U-Haul trailer and the bike, I feel like the truck didn't have much of a problem. I probably would have
Yeah.
seen, the range reduction, the mileage reduction. I probably would have seen that with a gas truck.
Yeah.
Just from the towing weight. That being said, if I wanted to go get a boat or I wanted to go get a camping trailer or something, I'm seeing some things even with the extended range battery on the forums, it gets cut in half. So, with the extended range battery, I think it's good for like, was it like 290 or 310 or something? It's like just, I think, a hair over 300.
Yeah.
You're going to cut that in half if you're, towing a 9,000-pound camper.
Yeah.
Well,
So where are you gonna go?
The one thing they kind of build that Lightning is the contractor's truck. It's the,
Yeah.
hey, you can power your tools and you can charge your batteries. You can do all this stuff. And so I'm using this example. I live about 45 miles south of the north side of Indianapolis. So if I were a contractor, most of my work was up there and I had to haul my trailer up there with my Lightning and my tools and charge and do all this stuff. How's that going to fare if I were doing that every day? And that's kind of my concern from that standpoint. I don't necessarily have a problem with EVs in general, although I tell you what, I've worked from home for the last 2 years. My previous car, I think I only put maybe 1,500 miles on it a year because I wasn't going anywhere. Now I got the Bronco in 9 months. I'm at almost 15,000 miles. So, and I'm still working from home. I'm not going into the office or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious that like in your case, you put 5,000 on your Bronco. Do you think you're going to switch that up, drive more, drive less, or about the same?
I think I'll be driving more. Like, I think I'll be driving marginally more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, for work, I work from home and may have to go into the office once a year or something. I don't even know. Bringing the kids to kindergarten, it's like 3 miles away, 5 miles away, whatever. So it's like, I'm not going to be doing a lot of really long trips. More kids can fit in this though. So I could see taking the family out, obviously can't take all the kids, but I could see going out and doing more things. I also can see owning a truck and people wanting me to help them with things. So I'll be putting those miles on it too.
I don't know
Tim
if you've heard
has
me
a
on the
philosophy.
last couple live streams. I got rid of a pickup truck because I got tired of people asking me to help them move, and I've refused to get one since. Although
You may have been smart.
yeah, now that I'm older, and I think most of my friends are probably established and not, moving from apartment to apartment every year or so, maybe it's safe to get back into a truck again. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
nice.
trust me, you will find the family member or the friend that's like, I need to help you. You need to help me move now.
Although,
Or you need.
And my oldest son is in that range. He's in his early 20s, so maybe he'll be in that thing where he'll be like, "Dad," I'll be like,
Yeah,
"You
get a
can borrow
truck,
it.
buddy.
You can borrow it."
Yeah.
So where do you think, obviously you said you're not going to have this thing long term. I'm assuming a year and then move on to something else. But what do you think resale is going to be on these things? Because from there, it's a weird thing with EVs. Like, I know Nissan with the Leaf and stuff, which isn't a super popular vehicle, but in 3 years, they're not even worth a quarter of what they were. Tesla, on the other hand, seems like they just hold their value like crazy, depending on mileage or charging on it. Where do you think we're going to be with these Fords?
So if you're talking within the next year, the constraints are still going to exist. You could sell it for more than you bought it.
Yeah.
Long term, the battery depletion, the wear and tear on a truck, all those elements. I mean, I think it's going to be more like a traditional car, right? You're going to get out of it, but you're going to lose money. Or you're definitely not going to make more than you bought it for. Candidly, right now, if I were to list it, I could get between $20,000 and $40,000 more than I bought it for.
That sounds like it'll be with Auto Trader tomorrow. So that sounds like
yeah.
It's just the way that the market is right now, right? Like people are waiting for it or waiting for whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm into faster cars. It's kind of like my my actual funness of it. And there's a dealer out here that has a Lamborghini for $70,000 over MSRP, and it's pending sale. Like, there's someone out there that's like, I need this thing so bad that I'm just going to pay so much more money, which is stupid because as soon as you drive it off the lot, it's worth less. And in a couple of years, when this does settle down, because guess what, it will, you're going to be so underwater on your car that, you know what I mean? Like, you can never sell it.
I'm sure there's some YouTuber out there with FU money that doesn't really care, you know, and
that is not me.
Pay whatever. Yeah. But yeah, collectively our channels. You know, one thing, and I kind of think about this on the secondary market, you know, Tesla batteries, $25,000 to replace those things. And they're basically gearing themselves in a position to where it's just cheaper to get rid of the car, you know, and it gets it off the road. It gets it recycled. They sell another unit, those kind of things. So I don't know where Ford and some of these other manufacturers, where are they going to be in 5 to 10 years on that vehicle in relationship to that battery, and how much is it going to cost to replace it down the road? Because eventually they'll wear out. Now, I know I've seen some videos where people have dropped the battery tray of the Tesla, popped it open, and you know, fixed individual cells, and we had access to the software that they needed to do the maintenance on the battery, and was able to, you know, get it fixed, get it back in the car for, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 versus $25,000 to have Tesla just replace the whole thing, because that's what they want to do. So I'm kind of curious on how that's going to work out in not just Ford, but any of the other EV manufacturers, and how that's going to, how, you know, what's it going to do to the consumer down the road as far as getting that fixed cost wise. Are they going to follow that same kind of model where it's, you know, not necessarily shop or end user fixable stuff? And then how's that going to sit in the secondary or tertiary market on resale down the road? You know, is it,
that's scary too, because the big push now from the big three to get into EV now with Tesla and relatively the small players and like Porsche and a few of these guys, like, yeah, I can see like, well, it's just the price to do business. But yeah, you start getting into the big three territory where they need to move vehicles to be profitable. Yeah, and at some point, it's just they turn into throwaway vehicles. You chuck it, and I think in 10 years, you're going to see so many people losing their ass on these things because the cars are getting more expensive. They're more complicated in this. You know, EVs seem simple, but it really is more complicated. You damn need to be a coder to know what to do with these things. And the average, you know, the used market's going to be nuts for these. And hopefully there'll be some aftermarket companies start popping up for battery replacements. But they're so locked down. Like Tesla, you know, what is it? What's the gentleman that rebuilds the Teslas?
Rich rebuilds. He's actually out of here, out of this area.
You should just troll a shop, by the way, in this thing. Just
is that the black guy, the engineer?
Yeah.
He tried to fix his Tesla, and he actually has an engineering background, believe it or not. And he tried to fix his Tesla, and he called them up for parts, and they basically sent him a cease and desist to stop working on the vehicle. And he's like, I own this thing. And you're like, well, read your terms because we only work on it. And it just so happened that his video got so much exposure that Elon actually ended up reaching out and was like, we're going to change how this works. Yeah. And now he kind of has carte blanche. Like he just fixes Teslas at this point. That's kind of his gig.
Did you see where he put a LT1? I think it was LT1 in a Tesla.
I have not, but I did see where he built the he built what he believes to be the electric Tesla ATV.
Yeah,
and proceeded to almost flip it over because of how much torque it had. But no, I mean, I think you actually touched on a couple of important parts. One being that Ford is relatively new to the EV game. I mean, we have the Mach-E, but
there's no history,
right?
They have no idea how long these are. Yeah.
I mean, they have new battery tech. They're building it. Well, they're like partnered to build it with themselves or whatever. You know, I mean, Tesla has a decade of experience in this space, and they still have growing pains as big as they are, and as long as they've been around. What they want to do is they want to have you bring your car in, drop the battery, and put a new battery in.
Yeah,
like, that's not feasible because where does the old battery go? Are they going to recycle it?
And actually, they do. There's very few batteries, even car batteries now. None of that's new. It's all recycled.
Right.
So I mean, they just put they rejigger it, chisel it a little bit.
Yeah, I know
slap a new cover on it.
Nissan was making home packs like battery backup packs for houses and stuff. I know they're recycling because the requirements of those batteries versus electric vehicles is very less. So you can have a battery. I think like 60% life expectancy for a home is perfect. For emergency situations.
Yep. No, I think truth be told, aside from Tesla, which has been around for a while, I mean, even from I can't remember the original thing, the Roadster, it's been around for a really long time. I think somebody like Ford has a lot to prove in the sense that, what can they do it, right? Is this going to be a long-term strategy? I know that they're spinning off the company at some point. They're going to create an EV division. Not sure if that's a marketing move or if it's a kind of an insulation move. If this side of the company goes south, it at least doesn't take down the main company. Like, there's a lot of factors there. But then you have companies like Chevy that is coming out with the Silverado, and they're going EV. They're a little behind, but I think it's also kind of as a benefit, right? Because they're seeing how Ford's doing things, and they're Rivian as well. Like, they'll learn from these companies and maybe get it even better.
Well, if I'd ever hear about my Silverado EV, I reserved one, and over a year ago or whatever it is now, and there in Chevy fashion, hardly any updates. That was the nice thing that Ford just would give it, kind of, they had their people out sort of giving with Bronco and stuff like, here's kind of where we're at, and Chevrolet is nothing. Even my dealership's like, I don't know what they're doing, man.
So it turns out, and I was super bummed about this. Because I had the Lightning on order. I was invited to one of the launch parties at Ford Corporate in Michigan, and I just didn't understand the email. I thought they were just telling me about the event, and it turns out that I could have actually gone. So I was like,
it's probably better you didn't.
Yeah,
you never
could have done a video from there and everything.
Yeah, you might run into John Farley or whoever it is. Better you didn't go to that one. So daily use, would you recommend this thing? How would you recommend this vehicle if people are looking right now and they're interested in EV and they're like, I don't know, man, especially a truck? What would you say the best case scenario for a daily driving EV truck be?
So I think for that, it's a great question. And I think in order to answer that, you have to ask yourself some questions on what your use case is, right? So the first things that I would ask myself are, can you charge at home? Can you charge where the truck is going to live when you're not driving it? Or any EV for that matter, right? Because if you live in like an apartment complex or something, or a townhome, and you're not able to install an EV charger, that's going to make it a lot harder. Unless you can, charge at work or something, then maybe I guess you could do that. The other is, how important is range to you? Do you need to jump in your truck and drive to California tomorrow? Probably not the truck for you. And then lastly, can you be okay kind of slowing down your day-to-day operations, right? Can you plan ahead and be like, hey, you know what? I got to grab lunch tomorrow on that trip. So I'm going to do it towards this area because I can throw the truck in, and 30 minutes later, it's completely charged, or at least to the level I need.
Which Tesla is good about, because they give their, you can really plan your routes with the Tesla, and they have superchargers everywhere. And I've heard, because Ford did partner with whatever Charge America or whatever it is, right? That's kind of how
America. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're saying their network is. And my understanding is they half the time don't work. And there's been a lot of problems with that. So in Ford, Marquise, the dude that does the reviews, he did one time where he showed like just the garbage they had to go through, and they would try to charge it somewhere. It didn't work. So then the panic, like, I've got 30 miles to get to the next place. Yeah. And there's so many factors.
So, and it's funny because when I dealt with a person that was parked and not charging, but taking up a spot, I was like, well, I could just go to another one. But then I was like, yeah, but what if I get there and they're busy?
Yeah.
Or it's broken, right? Like, so then you start thinking, I really, it's not like a gas station where there's another one, 2 miles down the road.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Because you have to look, okay, there is an EV charger 10 miles away, but how fast is it? Is it only, a 30 kilowatt hour? Because that's going to take 4 hours to charge. You know what I mean? So like you get into a different headspace where honestly, if you're driving all the time, if you see yourself putting 20, 30,000 miles on your truck every year, you're probably not going to be able to do it with an EV. You know, unless you have a lot of free time, or you can somehow, you know, if it's a continuous route where it's always the same destinations, then you can work out, you know, I mean, I can park here, I can stay here overnight, whatever, I can get this done. But if you're like, oh no, today I need to make a run out to, you know, Biloxi, and you're like, crap, what do I charge?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like where I went in Pennsylvania, I could not charge. It was outside of Scranton, which is, I was kind of amazed, but like, I forget the exact town I was in, but there was no charging in that town. I had to go back into Scranton to charge.
Scranton? Oh, okay, Scranton. I was gonna say, because that's Joe Biden's hometown, and you would think they would have chargers all over the place.
That no, they in Scranton, there was a lot of chargers. That's also apparently the electrical capital of the, I don't even know. It was like the light bulb was there or something. I'm not even sure.
I wanted to address Imbajo's comment real quick about how EVs tolerate an EMP. He's asking for a Russian friend. Well, Ford has patented technology of they're going to inlay a Faraday cage in the paint, and that will protect it from the EV.
Well, so but does it protect you from when your government decides you don't need your driving privileges have been revoked?
Well, that's no different than your Bronco, dude. You can.
Oh no, definitely. So Bob Masters is asking here: EV batteries okay in cold weather? No, EV batteries are not okay in cold weather, and they're not okay in hot weather. You have to damn near live in the perfect temperature, really, to get the max potential out of that battery. So they will work.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm actually, you know, I'm in Northeast. It snows here. It is frigid cold. I am honestly excited because that's kind of like saying I'm excited to get shot. I'm intrigued on how good or bad it's going to do, and I'm definitely going to document it because I'm in a unique situation where it's extremely hot in the summer and extremely cold in the winter. So,
right,
you know, let's see how this thing does.
Well, I can't wait for that. And speaking of that, guys, if you'd smash that like button for me, I would greatly appreciate that right now. That's all I ask from this. That and go over to Coderman and
this time, right?
Go to Coderman's channel, and definitely, if you're interested in this EV stuff, go and subscribe, because when he's done with this, he'll tell you to unsubscribe. Sorry, I had to get that.
Matt, you're not.
I respect that. So the inside joke is like, Coderman, when you were done with the Bronco, you're like, hey, there's probably not no more content like this. You know, if that's all you're expecting, you might want to move on. And I remember watching that going, holy shit, man, Matt's getting vicious over here with these guys.
It was a bold strategy. I don't regret it per se. It's more or less, I wish I had explained it a little bit differently, because I feel like it comes off kind of callous. Like, hey, if you're not here to support me, leave. It wasn't that at all. It was, I'm not going to be making Bronco content anymore. Aside from a couple I have kind of in the wings, I got to get them done. You know what I mean? So it was like, I'm not going to be serving a purpose for you. Feel free to unsubscribe. I just kind of said it more of a like, get the hell out.
So Kevin Monet says Motor Trend article a few weeks ago said towing degradation was over 40% in these things, man.
It can be if you're pushing the limits of the towing capacity, as well as if you're going up and going up grades. I mean, I noticed an instant drop when I got into Massachusetts. The roads here, there's a massive hill when you get into the state, and I noticed that the range was dropping faster than if I was on flat ground, which of course makes sense.
And thank you, Kevin, for that $9.99 super chat. Speaking of that, of course, Kevin's a Nissan guy, but I had a Aria pass me yesterday. I was quite excited finally seeing Nissan, their SUV out there. And of course, they're not ready for sale, not just ready for prime time yet, but they're getting closer. So where are you? You were kind of given the good and the bad of it. What's the most exciting? Is it just the full power, just to throw you back? Is that the kind of fun of this vehicle, or is it just literally, I got a full size truck now? That's the nice part.
Yeah, I think I have a full size truck now.
You wear a cowboy hat, because full size truck guys wear a hat. You got to wear your cowboy hat or something, man. I know you're a big country music fan, so
I have not worn one driving around. I will at a concert, but I'm not. I guess I could.
You got to get the Longhorns out front too.
No. Maybe. I'm gonna stick out
Okay.
a little too much in Boston. Then again, the bright red truck probably does that for me.
Right. Well, you know, it's
No,
not the
I think
Bruin killers or whatever.
I enjoy that it's a truck. It didn't need to be an EV for it to be a truck. That was never the purpose.
Yeah.
I think I'm excited to try something different. You know what I mean? Like we still have my wife's car that's gas powered. I still love loud cars. I still have the Mustang project that one day will have a very loud V8 in it.
Nice.
And now we have my wife's Chevy 3100 that will most likely also have an LS V8 in it because she's got the bug bit she got bit by the bug as well. So, I'm always going to have, fuel and gas in my life. It's just, it's more convenient right now because I charge it at home, I go, and I come back and I plug it back in. I haven't been at a gas station in 2 weeks.
Yeah, mobile moto. You can have an AR-15 across your rear window in the Massachusetts, but it's got to have the 5-round magazine with the bullet button release on it.
Actually, you can't even have it across your rear window because that would be considered a what the hell would that? An intimidation. So I have a buddy that was walking in Boston. Yep, I have a buddy that was walking in Boston, concealed carry. He lifted up his shirt to do something. A girl saw it, screamed, and a cop heard. And he didn't get in trouble, but he got told, "The do not show has to be hidden."
Oh yeah,
well, for that.
Yeah, incidental stuff like that. It would be not enforceable. You would have to
for
have
sure.
intent.
Yeah. It's
So,
a nuisance, what it comes down to.
Tim, Honest is going to buy my next Frosty. He's done said it.
That's fine.
Nice. Does he have any
I want to know why Honest wasn't there in the Bronco with us that night.
I know.
I mean, they talk a big game, and they could have been there
till they physically buy Frosties. Tim was there.
Right.
What were you saying, Matt?
I didn't know if he was asking some questions, or so I don't know if he had any other questions that I didn't answer as far as with the lightning. So the other thing I wanted to touch on is that I'm kind of in a unique situation where not a lot of people have them yet. So it's candidly is a good thing for YouTube, just the way that the algorithm plays. But also I want to be kind of like, this is the real world experience. This isn't, a Motor Trend sales thing where I want to get more stuff from Ford.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, I will crap on it. Like I don't have any affinity to any brand. So that's just the reality that I'll tell you if it's good or I'll tell you if it's bad.
Yeah, that's what, our friends over at TFL, they'll have theirs for a little bit and they'll move on to something else. And as far as like really living with the vehicle, that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because you're a few weeks into literally living with the vehicle and having really no experience with EVs. I mean, obviously driving some, but no practical experience. And there, like you said, there's not a lot of people, especially with truck. There's no practical experienced people out there. So I think there's a lot of video ideas for you out there that should be a lot of fun. And this is for you as a content creator, man. What a new fun, anybody can film a truck going up a hill or whatever. Like you have something right now, like you were saying, that nobody has, and you can give us a real experience.
Yeah, and I find that people, even in the previous video of the towing, people ask real questions that I can actually provide insights and be like, oh well, I had it for 24 hours and I didn't get to see that. I mean, like I can just go out to the truck and answer the question.
So where do they put the spare tire on that thing?
Where's what?
The spare tire.
So like there's this little thing that's hanging down in the back underneath the bed.
Yeah.
That's where the spare tire goes.
Is that what that's for?
Yeah.
So they have does it come with a full size spare?
That's a great question. I actually don't know. I think it would, but I'm not positive.
Right.
I know it has.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, I would hope that you would get a real spare for what these things cost. What roughly was your MSRP on this one?
So this one was, oh geez, what the heck was this thing? I want to say it was like 64 minus the deposit.
Yeah.
So around 65, I'll say.
Man, and you can get $100,000 in these things now.
Yeah.
So a few bucks more than the Bronco.
It was, yeah.
But I guess the question is so you got an upcharge in your monthly payment, but you're gonna save some money on your fuel costs. You think that'll be a wash then, or for total cost to operate the vehicle each month, or
I think it will be, with the exception of interest rates climbed considerably since I bought the Bronco.
Mhm.
So there's going to definitely be some pain there. But I think also, like, there's no service required on this thing unless something
Yeah.
goes wrong, and it's completely warranted. So
So did they put the 3,000K mileage window sticker like they do for servicing? Like,
they
just start
didn't.
screwing with people.
No, they didn't do that. But what they did do, actually, my dealership sent me saying my first oil change is free.
Okay.
I was like, okay, this is amazing. Can I use it on another vehicle? Because you're going to be really confused when I bring this in. And of course, it was an
Yeah.
automator. They're like, you bought a new vehicle, so let's get you on this list, and
Oh
here,
yeah.
have a free oil change. But I just thought it was kind of funny that it's a freaking electric vehicle. There's no oil.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. No. And so what are I'm assuming this. This is out of the part, but what are the service intervals on this? What are they saying? Because I know there's always that 50,000K here, bring it in for this. There's always the 75 to let's flush the transmission. What do they give you an idea of what the service on this?
Actually, no. And it was kind of interesting because I did briefly look through the manual. I have not seen anything, kind of like jumps out at me. I haven't really dug into it much just because I haven't owned it that long. But
Right.
I would be curious. I mean, there has to be some sort of maintenance, or
Mm.
like battery maintenance, that sort of thing, a health check, something.
Yeah. I
That
wonder what
being
the
said,
brake flat.
The health checks and all that stuff, I'm sure they do remotely anyways.
I was just gonna say the
Yeah.
entire truck is connected to Skynet, so they know when you do
There's a
anything.
Terminator waiting.
Mhm.
All right, so like, and it was kind of cool but weird at the same time. Like my daughter was in the back seat and she undid her seatbelt when we got there, and all of a sudden there's like a flashing on the display telling me which seat the seatbelt disconnected from. I'm like, that's cool, but I know 100% you just sent that to Ford, and be like, this was an event. You know what I mean? Because I just understand how software works, and with analytics, you want it all.
They
Same
take it
thing
all.
where like the app is showing me all of my charging, metrics. Well, if they're showing it, they have it. You know what I mean? So, I
And
guess I'm
they're
kind of a beta
selling it
tester.
too. They're selling it.
Probably. I mean,
Because I used
you think
to
they're doing
work for a
something.
little 3-letter company down the street from you guys, and we sold a lot of storage for stuff like that.
Oh yeah. No,
So
it'd be. I mean, they got a partnership with Electrify America for some reason. It's
Mhm.
not to be kind. What I'm waiting for, and granted, take him with a grain of salt, but Elon actually has alluded that he's going to open up the superchargers for pay, of course, to other vehicles, and of course, I'll require an adapter.
Yeah.
But it's something that he's looking into. I think they're already starting to pilot it in other countries. When that
Well,
occurs, it'll be much easier to charge because, like you said before, there are tons of Tesla
So
superchargers.
he has an interesting philosophy on the technology, where I mean this is what he wants. He wants us to be off of fossil fuels and to do this through electricity. So I find that at least on the surface, it looks like he's going to facilitate that. The one thing that Tesla does that's interesting, and I think it's not just Tesla, but it's the SpaceX. It's all their patents. They're open. You want them, use them.
Yep.
The way he looks at it, I mean, that's great. That's by the time it's patented and they're using it, it's old tech, and they're
Mhm.
focused on looking forward and innovating. And if people need it to get up to a certain level, great, use it. I want to. I mean, they're in business to make money, but I think at least from this standpoint, he wants to make it so everybody can come along. And again, we've seen some interesting partnerships. Ford,
And
Rivian.
Tesla will be positioned to be the next Exxon, really. I
Mhm.
mean,
I honestly, when I saw that Ford was making the Lightning, I didn't think they were going to create their own battery, or not create their own battery, but like, go with their own battery tech. I honestly thought they would partner somebody like Tesla and just get the batteries from them.
well,
I
they have
don't.
Rivian. You
Right.
would have
That's what I'm
thought
saying. It's just,
Rivian would have paid
yeah.
off.
Well,
You know what I
so
mean? It's just, although I think they sold out of that, didn't they?
No, they still own a big chunk. They
Did
did sell, I forget,
Did they?
$7 billion worth. Yeah.
Yeah. They still own some. Okay.
but a lot of those companies, you're in the tech industry, you understand that. I mean, you have innovators that come in and they disrupt. Bigger companies come in and buy them up. They buy that technology, and Yeah, then usually those people that got bought up will eventually peel off and go do something else and go through that whole cycle again. And it's about
Well,
disruption and
well,
innovation, really.
Tesla's not positioned to be bought out anymore is the problem.
No, they're not. But like a Rivian, Ford invested a lot of money into Rivian.
What Amazon did as well.
Well, yeah, but those kind of corporations are good because they fund that kind of technology, and then Rivian will eventually get bought out by somebody, and those people will move to the next venture. 18 months after their non-disclosure and non-compete where run out.
I mean, these are tech things now. They're not vehicles anymore. They're
they're absolutely right.
Yeah. So as we wind this thing down, man, what's kind of the future of some content we can see coming on your channel?
So definitely more with the Lightning. I think that's kind of been the whole focus of this show.
That's shocking.
Right? Yeah. I think I might make some more content on that. I have the motorcycle, although granted it's not going to be much longer, so there's not going to be too much on that front. I really, really would like to get moving on the Mustang. It just hasn't really come to fruition, so I'm hoping to do it. We're wrapping up one of our house projects hopefully soon, so I can actually spend some time on that. But yeah, outside of I have a '66 Mustang project that is more shell than car right now.
So you were tearing it apart, so that was exciting.
So I saw in, I think your Charger video, you were talking about some other. You'd put a sub panel in out in your garage, and you also had some feeds going in for air compressors and stuff like that. Is that to do the work on the cars?
Yep. Yeah. So I have a line for a welder, and then I also have another line for the air compressor.
Nice. Damn it! I just had a question rolling on there. Tim, go ahead. If you got anything else, maybe it'll come back to me.
Well, so you had mentioned I have a friend of mine that purchased a Tesla here not too long ago, and he's actually put 2 chargers in. They have a lower level basement garage, and then up on the main floor they have kind of like a carport thing, and he's put chargers in it both. Did you find that? I think he was telling me that it cost him about $1,500 a piece to get it all in there and get that done. Did you find that to be, because I think you had mentioned you've got a permanent charger in now?
Yeah, so I have a permanent 50 amp industrial plug, and then the charger itself is the mobile charger from Ford. It's not great, but it works. I'm less than that only because it's a friend of mine that's the electrician. But yeah, I would say about $1,000 to $1,500 in time and materials. It's going to really, honestly, the biggest thing is for the number 6 wire that he used to run from the panel to the 50 amp was, I think it was $7 a foot. So wire is expensive right now.
Yeah.
Yes. I had to do a hot tub, and I was amazed when I had to buy the wiring for that. $700 or something. It was ridiculous. The wiring.
Dave, you just need to blow bubbles in the water to get it to warm up.
Well, I do that in the winter.
No power needed.
Yeah. So I'm definitely excited to see where you go with this. The final question I want to ask you, now that you've seen some EV stuff, where are you at with the Dodge Charger EV? Yeah, that's had to pique your interest a little bit, right?
It does, in the sense that, well, it's actually for 2 reasons. One, I think that it's nice that it's going to be an actual muscle car. I think that if Ford wanted to create an EV, they should have made a Mustang an actual damn Mustang. But the other thing is that they're going the way of, we want it to be EV, but we still want to kind of live within the world of performance and, that sort of thing. So it's going to have a geared system, which I think, so transmission rather. I think that that's a bold move, honestly.
Yeah.
Because that could be a major fail point, or that could be a huge win for them.
Well, it's like backwards technology too. Like, why would you don't need it? Why do it? But people want to experience that.
Yeah, and they're going to do the same thing that BMW does with the artificial sound. They want to make it sound more like an engine. I personally think that's the dumbest thing in the world, because like when I'm in a vehicle and I know what it should sound like, it can't sound like something else, with the exception of a Tesla where you can run your own audio tracks.
Yeah.
Then cool, I can make it sound like a freight train if I want.
Well, duck is a duck is a duck. Yeah, I don't need. Yeah,
But
I did find that the Charger, that sort of weird growl that they had, I'm not interested in that at all. And I love that they call it an exhaust. I'm like, that's just stupid. Like, don't come up with there's a way to name this thing that's not exhaust. And I know what they're doing. They're playing with, the people that want the Hemi and all that. But of course, the sound that you heard was not that car either. It was just some replay of I think it's exciting that they're at least trying. Dodge doesn't have much to hang their hat on anymore, really, since they pulled the trucks away from that. It's like, well, we got this, and that's about it.
Killed the Viper, so
yeah, you killed all the fun, but and that's all they kind of had was fun. But no, I'm excited by that, and it sounds like you are as well. So Matt, I see the awesome wife back there. She's tending with the fire, so I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to say thank you for popping on here. I definitely want to check back in down the road, because I think there's a lot of first world hand experience that you can offer people who might be interested in it, and kind of maybe not. So we say thank you for being on tonight, buddy.
Oh, I absolutely love being on the show. I'm glad I got to come back and speak about something a little bit different.
Yeah, of course. And obviously Coderman, go check it out. He lost a few subs when he said bye to Bronco, so we need to gain those subs back for him. So
yes,
go
please.
help him out with that.
But if you need some help on a Samsung refrigerator, he's got a video on that too.
Yes, the evergreen.
I need to make a follow-up video on that. That thing's paid for itself 3 times over, which is not even a braggable thing. It's more or less just I'm shocked that a video can have that type of longevity.
Matt's claim to fame.
2014.
Yeah, Matt's claim to fame is he repaired a refrigerator, and for some reason it's the go-to for a Samsung product.
It's actually on Samsung's forums for the answer to the problem. And the fridge was built in 2012. I made the video in 2014, and here it is, 2022. And
do you still have the refrigerator?
I just sold it, actually. So I had it for the longest time. It was in the garage, but I needed space for the welder.
Yeah. Okay.
But
did you at least get a premium for it because it was a featured item in a top performing YouTube video?
Sadly not, because unfortunately it just had that it was a very old fridge.
Well,
oh, man.
Well, Matt, it looks like your arm's about to catch fire, buddy. So I don't want you to.
Oh, she just threw way more wood on the fire.
I saw that. But
I've
all right,
got a nice
guys,
control burn going on here.
So that is the show tonight. I want to say thank you to obviously El Bronco Santa, not just Bronco Santa, El Bronco Santa for being on. Next Tuesday is iffy. Maybe my schedule here for the next couple weeks is going to be a little iffy on the happy hour, but we're going to try to get these in the best we can. So whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, you know the drill. It does not matter what tonight it does, because if you're driving EV, you're all right in Coderman's book. So thank you all for being here, and we are out. Peace.